There are many Native American legends of terrifying cryptids and monstrous creatures that stalk the night, but few are so dark that even the mere mention of their name is said to be a bad omen. The Navajo Skinwalker, or Naduloshi in its native name, means one who goes on all fours. It's a shapeshifter that can transform into any animal. The type of animal varies from wolves, owls, foxes, coyotes, and eagles, among many others. The animal of choice is dependent on its abilities. Birds allow for the ability of flight, whereas a wolf or coyote would be best to attack someone. Skinwalkers not only have the ability to look and sound like the animals they've chosen to transform into, they are also able to mimic the voice of any human. Other legends state skinwalkers are able to read human minds and can control humans merely by the person staring into the eyes of a skinwalker for long enough. But how does one get rid of or even kill a skinwalker? Much like the tale of Rumpelstiltskin or legends of werewolves, it is believed that if you state the skinwalker's name out loud, it will prevent the attack, forcing them to atone for their sins or even killing them, making it all the more likely that any attacks by skinwalkers would go unsolved and be written off as a mere animal attack, as it's difficult to know who the skinwalker is to begin with, let alone know their full human name. Understanding who the skinwalkers are and how they came to be is a bit mysterious as well. According to legend, they were believed to have been dark witches that dealt with dark practices, using their abilities to harm others, presumably for their own selfish needs. It is said a dark ritual must be performed to become a skinwalker, but what the dark ritual entails is a bit of a mystery. A few of the dark ritual's legends state one must take the life of someone they are close to, whether it be a friend or family member. The Navajo skinwalkers are shrouded in mystery outside of Navajo culture, as most Navajo people choose to not openly talk about it with outsiders, not only because they are believed to bring a bad omen, but also because those who are skinwalkers are said to have a distrust of outsiders and only share their practices with their own kind, making the legend all the more terrifying, as it's not easy for Native Americans to detect who amongst them may be a skinwalker. It is believed that no one would ever know if they have seen a skinwalker, perhaps because of how well hidden they are, or perhaps because one could not live to tell the tale. Nevertheless, there are many terrifying accounts of skinwalkers having been seen. I was spending a month with my cousins at my grandma's house. It was August and my cousins' ages ranged from 10 to 15. I was the oldest, being 15. I was staying with a 10, 13, and 14-year-old. We stayed up telling scary stories often, but one night, a few weeks in, we decided to make a campfire out back. My grandma's house is in a rural suburb. The neighbors aren't too far when you're driving down the road to her house, but in the backyard, it's thick forest with man-made paths through it. Each house is on a hill, so only part of the basement was actually underground. That isn't important until later, though. So we're towards the east side of her yard in a smallish patch of open land. You couldn't see the neighboring yards from there, and there was probably 3/4 a mile to each side of us that belonged to my grandma. It was maybe 11 at night, and we were playing Truth or Dare after telling scary stories, and my 14-year-old cousin dared me and the 13-year-old to go walk through the paths for 10 minutes or so. I said yes right away, as I wasn't easily scared and rather level-headed, but my younger cousin was a bit more hesitant. We didn't bring a flashlight because it wasn't pitch dark yet. We were walking through the paths for about 5 minutes and could barely see the fire through the trees when we decided to turn. In the middle of the path was a large dog-like creature, hunched over with its front paws an inch from the ground. What I remember most was how its eyes were so bright white, and it was a humanoid dog shaped with a human-like head but a dog-like body and human hands and feet. It looked right at us, and I know I was paralyzed with fear as it dashed the opposite away from us, towards a creek that ran through the yard. Eventually my cousin and I screamed bloody murder, and the other cousins and my grandma ran to us. I don't remember much here because I was really disoriented and I couldn't think properly, but I did wake up in bed, so I assumed that I was brought up to the house. All the kids asleep in the basement, in a big room with the sliding glass doors to the outside, as the room was on the side that wasn't underground. My bed was pressed against a big glass window, and I could see my cousins playing outside down below. The house is in Michigan, so it gets chilly even in the end of August, and there was a slight breeze, so I put on my jacket and ran to join them outside, skipping breakfast, not wanting to miss out on any of the fun. When I got down, I could tell they weren't playing, but rather running to get my grandma. Her dogs, both of them, were dead, ripped up. That night, we went to bed early. I woke up at maybe 2 in the morning because I felt something hit my head. My cousins were all sitting on the double bed opposite me, on the other side of the room. There was one bunk bed and 2 double beds. The double beds for me and my 14-year-old cousin. They were being quiet and staring at me. The 13-year-old nodded his head towards the window. I froze. They all looked afraid. I turned my head slightly to the side and I saw a really messed up looking face pressed to the window with gaping eyes looking down at me. I screamed so loud and it bolted. My grandma called the police after I told her what happened, and they found nothing. I went home after that, and I've never been there during the night again. If you like this video and want to see more, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and stay spooky, everyone.